So, two-part question. What has been the most interesting and what has been the most challenging paranormal investigations you've done?
Well, a really challenging one would have been the old Children's Hospital in Denver, Colorado before it was torn down. We were actually called in there to investigate the place as it was being demolished. And that was very entertaining, to say the very least. It was the middle of February. There was no power, no heat. It was basically a concrete tomb, and it was bitter, bitter cold. I think it reached 20 below.
Yeah, it was
absolute
zero at one point, I believe.
so we were there for several days. Now, the interesting thing is there were stories about a little boy on the 5th floor that would cause symptoms very close to sleep paralysis. These children would wake up in this one particular room, wake up screaming because there was this small boy on their chest trying to strangle them. Now, the interesting thing about it was that sleep paralysis tends to affect your cultural, be influenced by your cultural influences. So you could be an alien abduction, it could be a demon sitting on your chest, it could be an old woman coming in the room to strangle you, all kinds of different things. All these children, without being prompted, were kind of having the same vision of a small, blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy crawling onto their chest and trying to strangle them.
Yeah. So that made it very interesting that that was going on.
That is kind of interesting too, because you wouldn't think that the staff would be saying, well, we've got this 10-year-old coming in, let's go tell him about the little ghost boy that's going to sit on his chest. So there's not a lot of prompting when it comes to that.
Right. Ghost terror normally doesn't go well with cancer.
No.
So they don't tend to do that to the kids. So it was very strange that they were all getting that same sort of hallucination. And to make it even more interesting, we did find out that there actually was, back in the 50s, I believe, a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy named Shane that was in that room. And we had to find out about it in a completely different way because of the fact that, underage children, you don't get to look at those records. So they're pretty much sealed. So that was a lot of fun. But with that investigation also came our most scared moment ever in investigating a haunting. When we first went into the building, we were greeted by the security staff who were off-duty Denver police officers. And they're in full uniform. And we walk in the front door and they're like, oh, thank God you guys are here. Yep. Like, we're going to do something to protect them. Green ties only go so far. One of them said, that 5th floor, it ain't right. If I have to come up to that 5th floor and something moves, lead is flying.
Absolutely reassuring. Right?
Yes, that was great. So, in the middle of the night, we're in our kind of headquarters up there, and we decided we're going to take a walk. Now, there's so many, the building's half demolished, so there is stuff just scattered all throughout the hallways. You can't take a step without crunching plastic, and it's pitch black. So we're walking down the hallway, and we're, crunch, 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 because, we resemble Bigfoot in some ways. So we're going down the hallway making all kinds of noise, and we stop for a moment, and we hear something running down the hall up in front of us. Crunch, 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 as it runs around the corner. So we're idiots, we run after it. We go running down the hall, and we get to the corner, and we look around the corner, and we hear crunch, 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 crunch as it runs around the next corner. We go running down to that corner, and we hear it again. It's rounding the next corner. Right about that time, we have the most horrible cold chill come over us. And we remember the words of that police officer. If I go up there and something moves, lead is flying. Are we chasing a scared police officer right now?
That's way scarier than a ghost.
We're not afraid of ghosts. We are afraid of bullets. And we snuck back to our little headquarters and stayed there. Now, the big problem is we thought when we go down in the morning, we'll ask, was somebody up there? Because now it's a mystery. Did we have, because it sounded like something on 2 legs, just from the gate and everything of it. So we figure we'll talk to them in the morning, find out who was up there, and solve the mystery. Well, they were like, well, there's been a shift change. That during that time, that was a different crew here. No problem, we're coming back in 2 weeks, we'll ask them then.
Yeah, not really a good idea, because 2 weeks later, Homeland Security had a different idea. They wanted a place for a training exercise where they could put bodies into a collapsed building. They chose that building, so we were never able to go back. So we have no idea who was down there or what was going on, or just no way to tell.
It's safe to say it wasn't a ghost, but we don't know what it was, and that makes it a fun mystery, but that was terrifying, knowing that we could have been shot just then.
Now,
So-
as far as brutal, we did do an investigation at the Cave of the Winds in Colorado Springs-ish, and just going back into the cave where we had to get where all of the reports are, we were basically carrying 2 carloads full of equipment into the back of little tiny caves with no electricity. So we had to string our own wire back there. And it was just, wow, was it brutal. And the only thing we really learned was basically how sensory deprivation affects us. Because there's no sound, there's no light, there's nothing. It is absolute nothing. So we got to fool ourselves a lot, scare ourselves and run over each other a lot, but
got to learn about phosphenes and
that's true.
how that affects the brain. That was pretty exciting.